Good day, and welcome to Far Reaches. We are four people from similar parts of the world who have wound up chasing different dreams and living different lives. We are Richard, Rawley, Joel, and Micah. Richard and Micah are from Southeast Oregon, from two small ranching communities known as Pine Creek and Plush. Rawley and Joel are from Northeast Oregon, from the Pendleton area. We met through college, mutual friends, and heard of stories of each other. Somehow wound up being at the same place at the same time. See, we live and work in different parts of the U.S. now and have all taken different paths to get to where we are. We all talk separately and live far apart. So we decided we should try and talk more together. We hope you come along and enjoy. Hey, how are your mom and them? I really like that. I'm going to go back to that. Well, if you don't like it, say something. We'll either listen or not. Welcome to Far Reaches Podcast. I'm your co-hostess with the mostest, Micah. Up in my upper left screen of me is Mr. Joel. Then you got Rawley in the Canadian tuxedo. And the picture of the green cows is Mr. Richard, who says, "You don't want to see me tonight. I'm coming off a migraine. I look like hell." To which we all said, "Dude, we put up with you all the time. It can't be that bad." So welcome again to Far Reaches Podcast, where all your random questions are answered and some you didn't even know you had. Really proud to. We've just been added to the iHeartRadio platform. So I know some people have been asking about that, when we're going to get on there. Finally got that dialed in. So now there's basically no way to escape the reaches of the Far Reaches. So, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on iHeart, we're on Anchor. If there's a platform out there that we're not on and you want to hear us, you let me know and we'll see what we can do about it, or we'll shift you to one that maybe more than 5 people have heard of. So once again, we're brought to you by B&K Auto Salvage, our good friends at B&K, located in the beautiful Grand Ronde Valley and many other places, but it's sort of the heart of our area. So right there south of La Grande, heading on your way to Union, and then in beautiful downtown historic Baker City as well. Still using promo code REACHER for all your part needs. So when you roll in the store, you need some parts they might have pulled, use promo code REACHER. If you're getting some scrap picked up, you're going to get a little bump in that price. That means it's going to be worth a little bit more. It actually pays to become part of the Far Reaches Podcast. So we're going to kick it off with our favorite segment, the weekly update, or as we so joyfully call it, the Reach Around, where we go over some briefings from our last time we spoke and get a little conversation kicked off. So, Richard, I just dying to hear what's on your mind.
Oh crap! Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. What segment are we doing? I'm sorry.
It's the first one we always start with the Reach Around, the update.
Oh,
yeah.
How's things going? Things
Having
are
a
going
blast.
Good. Yeah. Except as of this afternoon, everything else has been going great. I'm gonna be really short. I'm trying to blank as to what happened this week, so I'll pass. But things are going well.
We fully believe you too. Yeah. Sounds awesome. I could probably make some stuff up that I've seen you tangled up in, but we'll let you get a brain break for the moment. How's that sound?
Thank you.
Beautiful. Mr. Joel, I saw you reach up there, grab your straw. You got your Wine Valley shirt on. You're representing the Northwest well this evening in your New York locker room. So what do you got for us?
Well, this week, I don't know. I'm sure you've been paying attention. I got you to finally buy into that SPAC I was telling you about, the PSTH.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Shit in the bed. The whole market is.
The whole market's crap.
For the last 2 weeks, I've just been watching my portfolio just dwindle, and today was a bloodbath.
I did make the mistake of looking this evening, and I said, I'm going to limp a little bit, but it's all good. It's the long run. Yeah.
It's so painful. It's going to continue to. I was able to offset it a little bit today. For the first time ever, I bought puts on SPY, which SPY is the ETF for the S&P 500. So I was able to offset some of my losses, but it's just been really painful watching all my GameStop winnings dwindle.
Yeah, I'm gonna I think App Harvest, is that the name of that one you recommended, Richard?
I actually just looked that up. I don't
Yeah.
remember talking about that part. I was going to ask him about that.
Yeah,
is that a concept you could do for the carbon capture?
Perhaps.
That's what I was meaning to ask him.
Yeah, I think so. I think
how's it doing?
It took a crap today.
Down 35% today.
Yeah.
Oh,
it'll come back, but everything that is craptacular today. Yeah. So, but I think you're onto something, Joel, with the that sort of approach for some of the carbon, maybe. But as long as it's Richard would say, I'll put words in your mouth. It's got to be controlled by the people who are doing it on the ground. They need to be the ones to capture all that, and I think that's one way to do it. Is sort of I'd pitch it as a virtual co-op, if you will. More people could come in and put it up for sale there, and they can get bought and sold. That's my thought. Not to get
sidetracked. Isn't App Harvest, their concept is to grow tomatoes on top of each other, right?
Kinky. It's a full scale farm too, though, but it's a lot of different stuff. But yeah, so they're hitting it a different way. I still think it's going to be good. I'm definitely hanging on to it.
I'm gonna buy some.
Yeah, now would be the time. Yeah. So.
I figured that stock was a lot like Tesla, is that people are going to get super excited about it, but it may not pay off for years. But if everybody got excited to start buying it, then apparently it might have to wait till the next wave of stock market, though.
We'll see. I think things are going to go up and down. I think I like the value in it. I think it's a food source. People know where it comes from. I think that's really important and going to continue to grow. So that's why one of the reasons I jumped in on that. And literally dozens of dollars at stake here. So, it keeps me awake.
Thanks for bringing my attention to the stock market, Joel. That was pleasant to go look at my portfolio.
It's part of the ups and downs. As we say, this is not professional advice, so you get what you pay for. So
the good thing about PSTH that SPAC is, everything else is down like 30%.
Oh yeah.
It's only down 10 or something.
I see good things in that too.
And it can't really go below $20.
Yeah.
Or you can get your money back.
It's word around the campfire. So worst case, anyways. Rolls, Canadian Tuxedo Man. How the hell are you, brother?
Not bad. Busy.
Yeah, I bet cabin season and everything else has got you going in 9 different directions.
Yeah, got a lot going on. Let's see where to start. Just buried in calving and trying to keep our head afloat, getting everything else done that needs to get done. And of course, tax season, the whole 9 yards. It's just that time of year. So.
I was reminded of that today. Yeah, tax season.
Mm-hmm. Other than that, things are good. Just, I don't know. There's lots of busyness. Kind of hard to not keep your focus on the task at hand when you got baby calves hitting the ground. And our weather's kind of been all over the map. Week ago, we were getting 18 inches of snow and lows in the single digits. And now we're up in the 50s during the day and mud and water everywhere. And you kind of got to stay on top of keeping the kids from floating down the river. So
yeah, it's cliched but true. But if you don't like the weather, just wait 10 minutes because it's going to change.
Yeah, no, it's Wallowa County. So, but just another day at the office. Did a little bull shopping this week. Hauled some stuff to the sale today. Just getting loose ends tied up before the heat of calving takes over for the next 3 to 4 weeks. So.
You're doing some bull shopping. I've been doing some bullshitting. It's all good, man. Yeah. It's balancing. Mm-hmm. And you got your headphones in. Everybody's going to be super happy about that too.
Oh, I don't know. There's a lot of shit that's probably not worth hearing coming out of my mouth.
We've not let that stop any of us at any given time. So that's sort of the whole theme of the program here is, yeah, you may not want to hear this. Maybe you shouldn't, but you're gonna. So yeah, that's the beautiful part about it. Yeah. So.
Hey, so did you buy a bull?
Yeah, I bought a couple Hereford bulls.
Hereford.
So
that's fun.
Yeah.
You got a couple new friends.
You know, bought a couple, sold a couple. You know, just playing with bulls.
I don't think I've ever heard that's fun when somebody says, "You buy some bulls?" Yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
It can be.
It
Be
can
fun.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the unnecessary evil of being in the cow business because you're
Now you do that so you exchange your bulls out like that so you don't end up with like inbred
try to
cow.
yeah. General, that's kind of the general consensus. We're the cattle that I bought into have been not to step on the racial narrative that we're living in these days, but they've been black. They've been black for about 40 years. In other words, it's been straight black Angus. And so we're gonna try to do some outcross and get some hybrid vigor back into the gene pool.
That's vigor, vigor. Yeah. Sorry.
So, and so Hereford makes a really nice cross and get good black Bali mother cows, and then once you get those, come back on them with black bulls, and so we're in the process of changing the genetic pool a little bit for the next 5 to 6 years. So.
Hybrid vigor. One of my favorite things I learned about a long time ago. That the difference good, basically. Yeah. Bring some new stuff to the game. So that's fun.
Matter of fact,
and you having some
probably watching me chew on something. I actually took a bull in the other day and got pepperoni and burger made out of him. So I'm having a little pepperoni right now. So
how fun is that for the bulls? Every few years I get to go to a new place, a whole new crop of cows to bang.
That's what I like about freshmen. I might get older, but they stay the same age.
I don't know how many of them actually go to another herd. Typically when they reach 4 to 6 years of age, 5 to 6, I should say, probably for most, but they tend to go into the meat market at that point because there's nothing worse than dealing with a bunch of old stubborn ass bulls trying to.
And ironically enough, they've kind of been in the meat market the whole time they've been alive too, if you think about it. Yeah. So
well, Joel, for instance, when you were in your early 20s, you probably had a little more incentive to go out sniffing around at the bar, meeting the ladies. And now you're kind of a little more laid back and set in your ways and don't necessarily want to try as hard. It's nice to have those ones that want to try a little harder when you're trying to get your cows bred. So if you keep the youth in your bulls, it's to your benefit. So
all right.
But there is something to the wisdom too, as the old joke goes. You know, hey, let's run down and screw one of them cows. No, we're going to walk down and screw them all.
Yeah.
Okay, that there's a balance, is what you're looking for. Yeah. One of the best jokes of all time. Yeah.
Yep. So
thanks for putting it in terms I can understand.
So you used to go to Krabby's all the time. Now you prefer to go to nice dinner and relax.
Yeah.
With your one true. Yeah.
And the nice thing about being a bull is you see a bull's life and you always think, I'd really like to be reincarnated as one of these bulls. They don't really got it too rough. They get fed. They get put on good pasture. They're always the best taking care of things. Well, sometimes neglected, but they're always damn well fed.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and then the animal rights activists are against like bull riding. But if I was a bull, I'd 100% want to be one of those bulls too.
Oh yeah,
you know,
made in the shade, man. Made in shade. Occasionally, you get to stomp the guts out of somebody. I mean, everybody's winning. Yeah,
could be a superstar.
Exactly. Joel Red Rock Curran. Yeah.
And then they set you up with the best looking cows to breed. Not just the stupid ones that are sitting out in Rawley's field, but get the best of the best.
Everybody thinks that, man. Yeah. Rawley's like, don't you dare insult my cows.
There's a lot of ways that narrative can go.
To be sure. Yeah. It's off to a roaring start. Yeah. Anyways. How about them bulls? Yeah. Go Bears.
What about you, Micah? What's on your highlights?
It's been a busy week, a lot of meetings, a lot of virtual meetings, I should say, with different parts of the world. Met a cool company in Australia and attended the World Ocean Summit online, which is pretty interesting. Meet some crazy characters there. So work life's been busy and entertaining. That's probably been the majority of my time. Yeah, it's been crazy weather here. It's going to be warm again tomorrow, I think, but it's cold this morning. So still working on my outdoor kitchen area. So that keeps me entertained as well. A little kind of tinkering with that at the moment. So yeah, and then I got some friends coming in from out of town, I think this weekend. So do a little barbecuing and some hanging out. So should be bueno. Yeah, we'll see. I'm perfecting my pool cleaning skills as well, which is basically means taking my robot and throw it in the pool and turning it on. But still, I got to wheel it out there, and that kind of stuff. So
right on.
Yeah. So busy Florida life basically. But I got a new office chair that I'm really digging too. So I'm pretty happy. Yeah.
Where are your friends coming from?
North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah. And new computer this week too, so I'm pretty excited about that. But that doesn't really much anybody else. So
that's pretty cool.
I mean, makes me nerd out spreadsheets.
What
blah, blah, blah. So,
what'd you get?
I got the new Mac Mini. So it looks like a giant ashtray basically. Since I already got like 19 monitors and keyboards, it just plugs into that, and they would say it's wicked fast. So and again, a good price, about right around $700 for a pretty badass desktop. So if you've already got a monitor and a keyboard, check it out, Maynard. Yeah, because it screams super fast. Yeah, it's quite impressive. My old my MacBook Pro was like from 2013, I think. So it was limping a little bit. It's pretty beat up. It still does a good job, but not quite for what I needed to get done. So it's time to upgrade, and they just came out with this a while ago. So
very cool.
Yeah. See, senor. So, well, since Richard's on the edge of death, let's kick it over to our next segment there, the old, as we like to call it, the entertainment spotlight. This week, we're talking about Devolution. It's Devolution by Max Brooks. Richard, once again, you got a good one, Home Slice.
Yeah, I don't know how many of you guys listened to it, but
I did. Yeah,
read it. It you really start off wanting to hate the book, and then you see where he's going. You hate the characters, you hate everything, and you see where he's going with it. And I think it's just such an interesting. If you take the Bigfoot out of it, and input any disaster that's happening in modern time right now into that storyline, and just pretend it's the Bigfoot. And then I don't know what the rest of you, what other people thought, but I think it has a lot of ties to World War II and the Holocaust. So all sorts
certainly good. Yeah, I think for those of if you didn't get a chance to get all the way through it, we'll give a little spoiler on it, but it's basically about this community up outside of Seattle that's sort of been optimized, I guess, as you can say. It's in the middle of the woods, but they've got the Wi-Fi, they've got solar houses, they got auto stuff on the house, they got there's maintenance people, it's basically all the accoutrement of the city, if you will, but you're living in nature, so you can be part of it, and you compost, and you have this little community of like-minded individuals, if you will. And so you see a lot of this, a lot of different places, and sort of the mindset of the people and their approach, and then their natural disaster occurs and kind of cuts them off. So all their automation, all their everything that's done, they get food delivered like every 3 to 5 days, so it's always fresh and it comes on a drone and blah blah blah. And so there's a huge amount of parallel between that and I think how a lot of people have been living, especially the past year, but to even beyond that. So when just the first thing happens where there's some isolation and they're cut off from everything, like they don't have the cloud anymore, they don't have food deliveries, they don't have the maintenance guy, so they're all solar powered. There's a bunch of volcano ash on the solar panels, so it's shutting shit down, so they don't even know what to do. So it's interesting. And then of course, you get different personality traits of the individuals in the group coming out of the doer, the bossy, the questioner, the person that's kind of got like a past you don't know about yet, and then of course they sprinkle in some really well written Bigfoot stuff and how they approach it. It's sort of like we found this person's journal and they're sort of going back through it. But the audiobook's great because people read their parts. But yeah, I totally agree with Richard too, that it drives you ape shit at times. But then they get to these points and you're like, man, I got to find out what happens next. And so great parallels about life now and what's going on there. And, it's almost borderline of this utopian place they're trying to get to and how easily that just goes to shit, basically. So I don't know. I probably went too much on that, Richard, but what do you think? And you're on mute in case you didn't know. I can't give you the hand signal. I don't know if you're talking.
No.
There you go. Yeah.
Hang on. We got a wolf. We have a wolf sighting. Are you okay, bud? Okay.
Oh,
good.
Okay.
Richard saw a scary wolf on TV here just a little bit ago, so I had to go down, change the cartoons.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's fundamental. Get a little thermoscope for him. Yeah.
What was making those noise in the TV?
Okay, good job.
His migraine's really impacting Richard's performance this evening. Yeah. I don't think helium helps for that, Richard. Yeah.
Yeah. The interesting, I think, is he wrote the tropes of the characters so well, like the vegan that won't do it. It's all these modern day personas, like the female couple with the kid, the adopted kid, just, and then like these people that have these views of the world that they are rock fasted, even when they're being bombarded by giant rocks thrown by Bigfoot, they're still worried about animal rights.
Yes.
And then it's showing that they're actually now the hunted and that they're probably the animals that the rights should be worried about. But it's just it really attacks all these conceptions that we have in a very interesting way. So, and I like how it all evolves. And there's sort of in the end, the interesting thing is how do you deal with a problem that keeps arising? And that's like this. I think the underlying question is like communism and socialism.
Mm-hmm.
How do you solve it? In the end of the Bigfoot massacre, there's only two people left: the adopted girl and this girl that managed to survive through it all. And they have this big conversation about why they can't find it. Well, instead of letting it come back again and affect more people, she's made the conscious decision to go out and kill it. And I think in this book, the Bigfoot is socialism and communism and all that kind of stuff. So by her going through this transaction and seeing how it affects people, she's decided just to eliminate it forever. And it leaves you hanging as to how it happened.
Yeah, it's worth a listen or a read, whichever is your preferred method of uptake. But it's roughly, I think, about 9.5 hours on audiobook. So it's a couple drives somewhere, but good, I think, for sure, especially when you start thinking about the parallels in it. It's a slow start. Like I'll tell you that, the first 20 minutes probably for me were kind of painful, but since it was recommended by the Bradbury, I powered through, and then I was like, no, sweet, I'm digging it. So, and once it's that thing too, probably if you went back and listened to the first 30 minutes after you kind of know where it's going, it nails it, but you don't know at the point. So it's hard to give it that prop, if you will, but enjoyable for sure. Yeah.
I would also recommend, if this is the first time you read Max Brooks, go back and read World War Z. It's also an amazing book.
Great point. Yeah. Same person who wrote both of those. And didn't you mention last time he's the son of Mel Brooks? Is that correct?
Yeah, he's Mel Brooks' son. And I think in the intro, he talking about it with his dad about this, the writing of the book and everything. That's why I think it has so much parallel between the Holocaust and everything. I think that the Brooks family story and that whole thing is exceptional, and I think that it came through a little bit. They're probably even though they're Democrats, I think their perspective on modern times is sort of interesting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Is there humor in his writing or anything?
Not overly in this one. No, I mean, if you laugh at people who were so dependent on all the automations losing some of that, then yes, but not no knee slapper really. So, yeah.
I think you can see, like, if you want to get anything from his father, he really picks up on the negative parts of our personality traits.
Great point. Yeah.
So, like, he emphasizes a character out aspect a lot like Mel Brooks does. Like, just makes it explodes it, makes it bigger, and gives you a different angle on it.
Points out some of the hypocrisy. Yeah, I think I can't remember the guy's name in the book, but he's kind of like the professor type in my mind. And he's, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't hypothesis and blah, blah, blah. And it's like Richard said, literally rocks and shit are raining down upon him. Like, but if one single tribe, chimpanzee, actually the mother, and it's like, dude, that's completely irrelevant and shut up, So, yeah, well stated, Richard, that he definitely is able to put the microscope on some of our character traits and show a little bit of how the lunacy, I guess you could say. So,
just one last thing. I thought I haven't quite figured out what it is, but he spent a whole maybe 1/8 of the book talking about tree knocking, which you hear about Bigfoot hunters.
Yeah.
And like it had some sort of meaning, and the direct meaning in the book was the Bigfoots took when they knocked back, the people at the village were thinking that they were communicating in a positive way, and they actually sped up their demise because they thought they were I guess the whole knocking thing has this whole undertone of communication and talking back and forth, and yeah, it's just has many layers. I'll probably be thinking about it for a long time.
I'm gonna listen to it again when I got about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes left. I just didn't get to the very, 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 very end. But I'm gonna listen to it again too, just because I'll pick up different things. It's like watching a Tarantino movie, like the 9th time you watch it, you're like, oh, dude, check that out. That's how that comes together completely. So you get that extra depth, I think, and that's what this one said to me. So. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you should be happy because Joel literally looks like somebody just ran over his cat, and Rawley, I think, is actually doing his taxes at this moment. Yeah, so it's hilarious. Richard, can we keep you around long enough to do the word of the week for us also, or do you have that with you?
I'm doing good. If I have to bail out, I'm recovering. It was a little rough. It wasn't very long after I woke up when we started this, so.
The power of the reachers, we can heal the sick. And so, that's all I can say. It's hard to prove otherwise. So I have to say it's one of those blessings and a curse. Yeah. So great. Well, let's stick with a regular schedule then. And that'll give you a few minutes to think about the word of the week in case you haven't already. How's that sound? Outstanding. Richard's on mute a lot. I think he's maybe vomiting in the trash can or maybe playing Jeopardy. We're not exactly sure.
That sounds great. And I already have a suggestion from Tegan Bigsby as to what the word of the week should be.
Well, we'll see. That will be unveiled when we get there. Absolutely. Yeah. So speaking of Deegan Bigsby, that leads us perfectly into our next segment, which is the Far Reaches Intellectual Moment of the Week. Brought to you by our good friends at Pendleton Cigar and Mixer. Walk in and tell the shopkeep that the Reachers sent you, and he'll probably give you a free golf lesson and maybe a cigar. Definitely a swat on the back. That's, again, the Intellectual Moment of the Week by our good friends at Pendleton Mixer and Cigar. So, as usual, I'm randomly perusing things throughout the week or the day, and somewhere I know between the last time we had this great session and now, I've got to have some sort of Intellectual Moment of the Week. And so, sure enough, I'm wandering around, and this quote pops up. A single twig breaks, but the bundle of twigs is strong. And I thought, and it's by Tecumseh, is who is accredited with that. And it really hit me extra hard this week because I think there's a lot of effort, in my opinion, to divide us, and when I say us, I don't mean the 4 a-holes on the screen are talking right now. I mean America. And I think that's the whole point, is when we're by ourselves and against each other, it's easy to break. But what we scare people and we're powerful is when we're all together. And so, I don't know if that's what Tecumseh was talking about when he said this, maybe, but it's certainly what hit my brain right now. It's about the divisiveness, and that's where people are trying to get us. So what would anybody else care to weigh in?
Is that like the opposite concept of it's only as strong as the chain is only as strong as the weakest link? It's the opposite of that.
Basically, yeah. Well said, Mr. Joel. Because
what are we supposed to learn from it?
I think twofold, actually. If you're not all in this together, i.e. you're the weakest link, then that's where the break's going to be. If you're talking about the chain, I think is one way to interpret that. But I do think that many people of the same mind and focus are stronger than just the one. That's where if you want to take it up a notch, the sum of the whole is greater than the parts.
At a society level, the thing is, if you do that, one twig breaks, parts of society break, and you take that twig and you throw it the fuck away.
Perhaps, yeah.
Couldn't stand the pressure, but we don't do that.
We should. So you're getting more onto the protecting the stupid and then
about that one twig that broke.
Maybe so. That's a great way to look at it too. Completely opposite of where my mind was at. But yeah, I think we got to be willing to say, hey, you didn't get with the bundle. Eat it. Yeah.
Yeah, get out of here.
Interesting.
Or the other argument is that there's the stronger twigs in the bundle protect the weaker ones. So it allows the weaker ones to go on when they couldn't, because 4 strong twigs beats 8 big ones, but the 8 big ones, there are 4 strong twigs beat.
No, it's got to be your bowl. Oh.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway.
Well, also that it's got to have some flexibility. I think part of it is too. But yeah, Rawls, still waters run deep. What's going on over there?
I'm listening.
I mean, only the reachers could take one sentence and have like 7 different points of view on it. And I think all be valid in this humble reporter's opinion.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got a good take on that, and the my thoughts is there's always a weak link. It'll either be, I guess every link has its purpose, but it's a lot easier to exploit the weak one than the strong one. And if in fact, like Micah alluded to early on, that we are trying to, if our country is trying to be divided as it appears to be the way it is, it's you can take those weak links and make them useful, or you can exploit them and make them weaker. So there's strength.
Exploiting the twig. Sound like a proper liberal.
And I don't know. There are strength in numbers, but everybody has a strength. You just got to find that. So
another great point. Yeah, I'm still circling back to Joel's about it. If you're weak, piss off, and we're going to move on without you, instead of duct taping that twig back together and putting it on the top of the stack where it's proud. I'd not seen that angle or thought about it, but I certainly agree with that too, that we're definitely protecting the weak twigs way too often at times. Or you tried, little twig. You tried to be a twig, you didn't. But it doesn't matter, because all you got to do is try. Then
I don't know, if you think a little duct tape will work, sure, try it. But if it doesn't, get the fuck out of here.
Just don't put Gorilla Glue in your hair. Yeah.
This is an interesting conversation because in my talking about carbon for the last 2 weeks, and trying to find a solution for farmers and ranchers not to get ripped off, I've learned about a lot of farmer and ranch co-ops that are aligning with each other so that they can create their own carbon programs. So I think in agriculture, and I preach this all the time, that there'd be a lot of benefit to not being the lone twig and to work in a group of people. Like I was on the Country Natural Beef call this weekend, and they were talking about regenerative agriculture, and I thought, and what they would be able to leverage for the entire group based on working as a whole group, and the smaller producers that may not have the economy of scale to take advantage of a lot of things will get to take advantage of things that'll be partially covered by the larger ranches. But when you put everything together, it all works out pretty good, and not anybody loses, and some people actually benefit.
Yeah, I agree too. Something you said earlier, Richard, that sometimes the bigger sticks help protect the smaller ones, which I thought was another thing I hadn't really crossed through my mind when this particular quote struck me. So again, that's what's that, about 8 different points of view we've had off of one single line of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 words.
Strength. If you're going to compare, strength in a stick has to do with the rigidity and the strength and the structure, but strength in a human comes in multiple forms. So, I mean, I can kind of relate this to a back and forth that my wife and I have had this week about some Scoury calves and how we should go about doctoring them. And I resort back to the methods that I've used for a long time and seen a lot of cattle get healthy and using antibiotics. Well, you might keep in mind that I married a nurse, and she's far more advanced in medical knowledge than I am. And of course, I'm hard-headed and want to go about doing it the way it has been done.
What?
And I know that's been admitted on public record now.
This just in.
Yeah. But it, I resort back to what has worked.
Sure.
And maybe wasn't the most cost effective, but the research that she's put into it has paid off, and found more effective ways to simply fight the scours issues with just drench and sodium bicarb and going about it just through hydration and
going after the gut and hydration. Yeah.
Yep. And is actually just probably worked a heck of a lot better than what I had been doing previously, and and I just being a dumb cowboy doing what I've seen done and what I've done in the past. But I guess when I think about the strength, sometimes perception is everything. And I think when we think of somebody who's strong, we think of somebody who's, powerful and has good leadership, but brains can far outdo brawn. And fortunately I married a smart gal. So,
yeah,
I kind of take that scenario and I try to put this into a way that you are stronger in numbers, and sometimes that weak twit, that what appears to be, based on my experience and background and working livestock, I wasn't the strong one in this case. I looked elsewhere and found strength in what might not have appeared to be the strong from my perception. But I mean, it might, there is strength and it's a matter of stepping away and perceiving things in a different light, that, so to speak. I don't know.
Well, it can be extra hard to kind of switch horses midstream when it comes to calf health, especially.
Yeah.
And that whole thing, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But sometimes it takes even more strength to stop and be like, is this a different way to do it?
Yep.
Staying with the calf example. So, again, I think that's about 10 different ways we've talked about this, but I completely agree with that too. That's pretty cool to hear, actually.
Getting into a lot of teamwork, right? Is that the kind of the concept?
Yeah, you're stronger as a whole, and it takes, I mean, ultimate strength doesn't necessarily mean that every member's strong. So
You know what I'm always fascinated by? I don't know why I'm thinking of this when I heard the quote, but the image that popped in my mind was I don't even know if there's even any connection. Maybe I just like that they do this. But have you ever seen the clips of the penguins when it's freezing outside? They all get together into the big group to keep warm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what I'm thinking with that. I don't know where I'm going with it, but
It's pretty similar to that, I would think.
I always think about like the poor bastards that are on the outside. Like, is it for a reason, or
they rotate through, though?
They rotate.
Yeah.
Do they rotate?
I think they do rotate. And so, but that's the perfect example of that, Joel, because if it's just one, they're probably going to freeze to death, or most likely. But when they have all of them together, then they stay warm from each other, you know.
Interestingly, Bigfoots do the same thing.
They do. They put their feet together.
Yeah.
You know that I don't know, you went to boot camp, Micah. I don't know what extent the different boot camps are, but in listening to several podcasts from a couple other guys that do it out of the military, they talk about how in boot camp and in some of their specified trainings, how guys do similar to what the penguins do when they're in the cold, wet environment. They all huddle up and use each other's warmth. I mean,
nut to butt. That's what it's called. Yeah.
They're trained to utilize each other to create strength and warmth and do what they have to do to survive. You know,
in that last book we read about the military guy, that dumb book.
Yeah.
He pissed on it.
Talked about them pissing on each other to stay warm. Yeah.
It's totally true. Yeah. Not the butt's common statement. You gotta have body warmth. You got team. You do. From day one, you're taught to be part of the team and not you. Like, that's why they shave everybody's head and you all dress the same. And, it's really like a military version of the Borg. But yeah, it's
so they got rid of that because I think women, they don't have to get they don't have to get haircuts anymore or something.
They have a different standard, I believe. Yeah. I don't know. They shouldn't because that was like step number one, the part getting received in or in-doc, as they call it, is you get the haircut. There wasn't women in boot camp. The same boot camp when I went through there was women on the boat later on. We were on the first combat ships to have women deployed there. But they had different hair standards. Yeah. But I think everybody should get the recruit haircut when you show up. I mean,
what's that Bill Murray movie when they show up to boot camp and get their hair shaved?
Stripes.
Yeah.
No, like you didn't need to do that or something.
You're thinking about police academy. Yeah. Take it all off. He's like, just a little off the side. Yeah. Like, this isn't the military, guys. Yeah. Like, yeah, I had there's a mole right here. And I was like, I'd not cut my hair for 6 or 8 months before I went in, just because I was like, well, I was going to get it all cut off anyway, so I'm going to get my money's worth. And so, they stitch you down, and it's literally like 13 seconds a person. So I was like, it's like, rah, rah, rah. And I was like, hey, watch out for that rah, rah, that mole that used to be on the back of my neck. Yeah. So then you got no sleep, you got no hair, and I got like my hand because I'm bleeding to death, Yeah. So they put some alcohol on it to kick you out the door. But yeah, it was literally gone. So yeah. Now when I go to the barber, that's the first thing I'm like, hey, I know I'm just sitting down in the chair, but there's a mole back here. You got to watch out for it. So it's not been taken out since, but yeah, nothing like that first recruit haircut. Where the hell? Oh yeah. Quote. So
yeah, no, that was good.
Hey, do cows do the same thing that penguins do to stay warm? Do they get together?
They will stand against the wind and together and
Nope. They and when you get bad storms or snow, they're all huddled up in a fence corner or out of wherever they can find some shelter or break, and they create shelter for each other by doing that. Yes. Yep. Which can sometimes be not good in the case of a lot of ranchers back in the Dakotas a few years back when they got a massive blizzard, and it came in, and they were all behind their wind shelters and whatnot. And there was so much snow that it actually blew over and drifted over the top of them and killed all the cattle.
Yeah, that part was spectacular. Exactly.
I was living in South Dakota then.
Were you?
Your fault then.
They'd get in the corners and they die, and then ones from other fields would walk over them, and when they found it took them 2 to 3 months to sort all the cattle out, who's belonged to who, because they were all over the place.
Yeah,
it was crazy. The school I went to had tunnels that went underneath between the buildings.
Yeah,
and so I have a 3-year-old. Anyways, it was so cold that we had to walk back and forth underneath the tunnels between classes. And I remember a Geo Metro getting blown over in the parking lot. And the only time we left the school for like 2 weeks was to get more beer.
Wow.
So cracking about the Metro. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
I think somebody tipped it over and blamed it on the wind. That's just me. Which is still a worthy use of the Metro.
We watched it slide across the parking lot.
Oh, awesome.
And hit a curve. And then it was shaking back. It was like wind would pick it up a little bit and then come back down. Wind would pick it up a little bit.
Oh, I can imagine the whole house like,
Finally. Yeah. If we weren't such jackasses, I guess we could have done something. But who'd want to go out a negative 40 go wind chill? But
for a Metro. I mean,
yeah.
You had cold beer. Why would you go do that?
Yeah, you're young and you got your health. What do you want with a Metro?
I played pinochle for 2 straight weeks.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll drive you to drinking. One of my friends in college at Eastern had a Metro, big guy, Chuck. Chuck was about 6'4", about 275, and Chuck had a Metro. And so it was me, Chuck, and my roommate, Cody. We're driving back to our little rat's nest on the north end of town over on Alder one night. And Chuck's in hot pursuit of something. I don't know what was going on, but he was hammered down in the Metro. So Chuck's driving. I'm in front seat. Cody's in the back. We're all at least 245, probably, maybe 220, somewhere there. Very, very, very minimum. Yeah. And we go roaring around this corner, and I reach down and I freaking e-brake the Metro. And it goes sideways and loops around and goes backwards into a yard. And Chuck was from the south. He's like, "Hey, man, y'all could have killed us." And I'm like, "Dude, there's 700 pounds about 2 inches off the ground. This fucking car ain't going anywhere." So after that, he was super Chuck in the Power Slide Metro. Yeah, so it was somebody actually broke into that thing and stole the AM radio out of a Metro. I mean, they must have just been pissed and like, I got to take something. Like, why would you break into a Metro? Like, seriously. And so I think they were just like, damn it, and took the AM radio. But yeah, then Chuck wouldn't even replace the radio. He just drove around the Power Slide Metro with no radio. So
remember my brother Brian had a Ford Fiesta.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Very similar to the GM Metro.
Right in the same
I think it was a
category.
Discount version of the Metro, maybe. But he used to drive that. So he went to the University of Montana. That's a pretty treacherous journey in the winter.
He would drive back and forth to see Law Dog all the time in that thing. Yeah. Over the mountain pass.
But driving to Montana
at the beginning, yeah, he was in the car. Yeah, at least he's told stories about it anyways. Yeah, I think he's kind of proud of it that he'd go see Law Dog in that thing. Yeah. But I could just see Big Daddy powering over the mountaintop in the freaking Ford Festiva or whatever it is. Yeah.
Shania Twain, come on over, full blast. I remember riding in that car. We were just jamming out to Shania.
How could you not? I mean, seriously. Yeah.
Well,
who was that a-hole? Cletus T. Judd. Remember him? Who would made like If Shania Was Mine? That he was like the parody. He's trying to be like the country Weird Al for a while. I hadn't thought of him till this exact moment, but yeah, Cletus T. Judd. It was, I mean, lawn mowing, crop cleaning, house cleaning, some kind. But anyways, he totally bastardized one of Shania's songs. But Cletus T. Judd, if you're still out there, man, you're probably working at a 7-Eleven or something by now. But
yeah, he's a discount version of
Weird Al.
Weird Al.
Yeah, glad you're still gone, Cletus. Don't pick up a banjo and come back. It's okay. Yeah, so. This is more you've been talking about than 25 years. So we start off talking about the quote about Twigs and being strong. I ended up talking about Big Daddy and his Ford Festiva. Yeah, that is the Reacher way right there. That's no doubt about that. People are like, hey man, you need better descriptions on these podcasts. I'm like, dude, you've listened to that. It's like tracking 3 blind cats. How are you supposed to get all this shuffled out and done? But we should just hire somebody to transcribe, I think. Yeah.
Last week we were talking about they were going to go golfing in Bandon.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's good for them. They can listen to our 3.5 hour long podcast. Brian said Junior wouldn't let him listen to it. It doesn't listen to boring podcasts.
Well, that's hilarious. That's where they should have been stronger than the one twig and told him to go pound sand. We're going to listen to it anyways. Yeah. You can make Junior be a good driver.
We talked so nicely about it.
Yeah, I know. And maybe he didn't think we were authentic since we did it that way. So, Shopkeep, if you're listening, I know you do, you little bastard. Go pound sand. Yeah.
Yeah, he probably listens. He just won't admit it.
Oh, I'm sure. He probably fervently masturbates while he does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinky. Yeah. So great quote. And it comes to 1768 to 1813, Shawnee chief and warrior and diplomat and orator, if you will. So I like finding things that are from that long ago. It still definitely relates strongly to us now. So beautiful. All right. Well, kids, that brings us to our next segment, which is indeed the Far Reaches a word of the week. And due to tradition, since Richard had the entertainment spotlight, he also gets the honor bestowed upon him to have the word of the week as well. So, Mr. Richard, are you prepared? You're still on mute in case you just don't know.
Yes, I am. I am prepared.
Outstanding.
I'm so happy to.
This is a first, kids. Again, this just in.
So, I have to give a little background. Rawley's brother called me today, and he said, I got the perfect word of the week for you. I was like, okay. Then, after hanging up, after he told me what he's doing, I said, well, I think it's fiddling for both him and his brother, since he's telling me how much he was enjoying isolation. So, word of the week is recluse.
Recluse, nice. Or recluse, as some would say, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to admit, when you first started telling the story, I fully expected you to say, so Deegan called, or I'm going to call him Mouse because that's what we call him. Mouse calls, says, I got the word of the week for you. You guys chat for a while, you hang up, and then you realize that you guys hadn't actually said the word of the week to each other. That was my initial guess, but I think recluse, great word of the week. Anybody have any thoughts or guesses? Input?
I mean, are there people out there that don't know what that word means?
Maybe.
No offense, Richard, but that's a pretty common word. Someone's a recluse they're a loner. They just
it is a word.
It is. You are correct.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like a shut-in. Yeah. I'd rather be hunkered down by myself. I don't want to go out. I want to see other people.
It's just somebody. Yeah.
That's my.
I guess you don't necessarily have to be that totally. You can be like reclusive in certain facets of your life.
Ooh. Taking the route and running with it. Very nice, Mr. Joel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Adding the elusive IVE.
I don't even read.
Joe Rogan this morning, and he had a guy on that lived in New York, and he was talking about Brooklyn. He must live near Joel, like how he just stays in his house and does push-ups and reads books. So,
he lives in Brooklyn. He must know Joel. That's like saying, "Oh, you're from Oregon, huh? Do you know Tim?"
No, I didn't mean to say he must know Joel, but I meant to say he must be living close to Joel. I have no concept of Brooklyn. So
that's why I'm laughing so hard, because is there more people in Brooklyn than there is Oregon? I'm not sure, but
what's interesting about New York is how easy it is in such a populous city to be reclusive. You don't have to.
I think that's the whole point of it, is you can be anonymous and reclusive and surrounded by people.
Yeah, exactly. But then there's like the real recluses, like who's that airplane guy?
Oh yeah,
the DiCaprio guy played DiCaprio.
Howard Hughes.
Howard Hughes. He was a
That's
recluse.
probably one of the best examples of a recluse. Or the big house, the publisher guy in the 40s, 30s.
The guy that wrote Catcher in the Rye.
No, not well, he is too, I think, but
J.D.
Hearst,
Salinger,
yeah.
he was a recluse.
Salinger, Randolph Hearst, yeah, Salinger for sure. Yeah, great point.
Colin McCarthy. Well, Colin McCarthy, the guy that wrote No Country for Old Men.
Oh yeah. Now on
Rawley,
Field of Dreams,
just by nature of circumstance, is a recluse.
He's pretty happy that way. Yeah, I think that's what Mouse was saying. Yeah, so one to talk. The guy that did Field of Dreams in the movie, was that supposed to be based on Salinger? Is that what the concept was? James Earl Jones in Field of Dreams, was that based on J.D. Salinger?
Might have been, yeah.
What's that? Richard, you're on mute again.
Yeah, I think it did have a connection to Catcher in the Rye.
Okay, that's what I kind of thought.
I watched that movie.
Well, me as well, but how can you forget James Earl Jones? Yeah, so.
Wait, what does Catcher in the Rye and Field of Dreams have to do with each other?
That's what I was asking. It was like the character that James Earl Jones plays in Field of Dreams is roughly based on J.D. Salinger. That was my question/point that Richard confirmed.
Oh, like his real life, not
exactly.
Movie.
In the movie, nothing, but like that was the inspiration, I think, for that character was from J.D. Salinger. So
okay.
I think once again, wheels way off of the ditch, but recluse is the word. Yeah. So.
Even after
I think that's a reacher.
Go
ahead.
Sorry, I still have a lag and I don't even have my video up.
Starlink.
The Colin McCarthy lived in a hotel room in El Paso well after he had successfully published books. It was crazy.
It's not a bad concept, really. I mean, I think there's something to be said for just living in a hotel room and not worrying about anything.
But I don't know. I think the true definition of a recluse is someone who actively looks to avoid or evade society and doesn't. I mean, yeah, you could be reclusive and be amongst society to an extent, but the true definition, I believe, is somebody who's actually avoiding it and gets to escape it and get away from it.
But not like agoraphobic, where they're like frightened of it. They're more like actively just protesting against it or don't care anything about it.
Or have a healthy dislike for humans.
Which the more you spend time around them, that certainly comes to bear. Yes.
Yeah, I can fully.
I think that's a good point.
But well stated, Rawls, for sure.
I didn't read that out of a book.
Yeah, it's always kind of presented as a bad thing, but maybe it's not that.
I don't think it is. I think it has that connotation, but yeah, I think it's actually, when you really break it down, I think it's a very strong position. There's a lot of strength in that. Some people cannot remotely tolerate being alone with themselves or their thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the healthiest things for an individual is to be alone with your thoughts every once in a while.
Having lived to a certain extent of a reclusive nature in my past, it's not for everybody. I mean, you spend enough time in a wall tent or a line shack or a abode that's 50 miles from your nearest neighbor and no communication link, you learn a lot about yourself.
That's my point. Yeah, is that a lot of folks can't handle that or don't want to know or don't even know how to, but I think, I've had several summers where it was just me and a lantern and a book or like about as cut off as you can get. Not like you in the middle of Nevada, but like pretty isolated, and it was just you and your thoughts, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. Yeah.
Is that a good segue into hearing Rawley's story?
It was going to be a completely smooth and precious one until you said it out loud. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know where the M Ranch or whatever it was located. Is that Nevada?
The Flying M Ranch?
Flying M?
Nevada and part of California. Right in the elbow of Nevada and California, where the bend in the state is there.
And it spans both. How many acres? It's a Hilton property, right?
Yeah, Baron Hilton owns it. It's 1 million acres. That not all that's deeded ground. I mean, the ranch expands over 1 million acres. It's somewhere between, I want to say, 40 and 70,000 deeded acres. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I'm probably way off.
So what were you doing there?
Just in a van down by the river.
I was working for the ranch just as a cowboy.
Like how many cowboy employees?
There were 2 of us. Well, there was the manager, and then the the cow boss, and then myself. So
was Hilton ever there himself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I met him.
Oh, did you?
Can we set the stage real quick, since we kind of like half-ass gave it away, but we didn't really? Yeah. But earlier this week in our private conversations offline, which you have to pay $40 a month to even listen to, the thing came up when the explorer Steve Fawcett was lost and went down in the middle of nowhere, and Mr. Bigsby, the man more powerful than the internet, happened to be working on the Flying M Ranch and was indeed the last person to see that plane and Mr. Fawcett. And so that kind of sparked some conversations back and forth, and we thought, given the chance, we'd work it into the conversation this evening. And so we had smoothly sewn that in, and now we can ask a few more questions, I guess. But Rawls, you want to give a little recap on that? Because I'm sure a lot of our listeners may remember it some, but maybe not. And others maybe not even have any knowledge of what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah, so...
Set the year and the stage, if you will. Yeah.
Like you were saying, Steve Fawcett was an explorer. And he was most notably known for being the first man to fly around the world in a hot air balloon. He was always out to set world records and Guinness Book of World Record type of stuff. But
he was also like a billionaire, wasn't
he? Yes.
It helps.
Yeah. He was very well off. He was a pilot, which most...
Kind of.
Well, yeah. I mean...
like John Denver was a plane builder. Yeah.
Well, they can't really say that it was Pilot Air that was the demise, but there's a few theories that I can go over a little later here as to why he wrecked. But anyhow, set the stage. It was about 2006 and September, beginning of September, Labor Day time.
It was 2009, actually.
2009. Yeah. Was it?
I think so. I read read the Wikipedia page.
I'm trying to go back and think, because I think it was 2007. To be honest with you, just where I was at in my life, I think it was 2007. I was working on the Flying M Ranch down there, and the ranch was roughly 80 to 100 miles north and south, and about 40 to 50 miles wide east to west. It was a fairly big Nevada place. And I was just the cowboy that was stationed out on a place called 9 Mile, which is a whole nother story. It's kind of an interesting little place. If you guys ever read the book, which that's actually another good option here coming up, but Mark Twain wrote a book called Roughing It, and he actually talks about through his passage into the West and some of his ongoing deals. Stayed at this particular place where I lived. It was a big stone house that had stone walls that Chinese packed these stone blocks for miles on mules and built this stone house out in the middle of the desert valley. And it was the only structure out there in that valley. And I mean, it was 30 miles in each direction before you ran into any kind of other civilization. And that's where I lived. There was no phone service. There was power and running water. And I was kind of just the station on that end of the ranch during the summer country.
Is it pretty nice or?
Very old. At one time, in fact, it was built in the 1800s, but the building itself had been a multitude of things. It had actually been a stage stop, a brothel, There was,
and you always miss the good stuff, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of different things that place was. And the at that point in time, that's where I was staying. The lead up to this is Fawcett and all of a bunch of pilots and stuff came in for the Labor Day weekend, I think, and they were all going up doing their flying, gliding, all their stuff that they do. Well, I'm trying to lead up to this. Prior to this, my brother and brothers and I actually had planned a trip to Texas to go pick up a trailer that I'd bought.
Oh yeah.
And so I had been planning to leave, and they'd both showed up and we left. Well, the day that we were leaving, I had to drive about 10, 15 miles to get phone service so I could contact them to find out when they were going to be there. And this was sometime in the morning. I couldn't tell you the time frame now, but they both were on their way. And so I went back to the house. Well, while I was up getting phone service in this pass, the ranch plane that my manager used all the time to help spot cattle flew over me and circled. And it was a decathlon Blanca decathlon, I think.
Close.
Anyways, tail dragger plane. And Ernie always flew it. And well, I was on the phone, I made the comment that, oh gosh, even out here, you're never alone, you know? And so I got back to the house. Well, one of my brothers had showed up in the meantime, and about that time, the plane flew over the house and buzzed the house and out to the east towards Mud Springs and whatnot. And when he was going down the road, he was kind of doing these maneuvers with that plane, and Ernie, he was trying to get his pilot's license, or he was in the process of getting his flight time built up. So he was known to be flying around. I just thought it was him. Well, didn't think anything of it. And so my brothers and I, we took off and headed for Texas. Well, the next afternoon, we got into New Mexico somewhere, and I got a phone call from Andy Ely, who was the cow boss, and he said, "Hey, you didn't see Ernie or the plane flying around yesterday?" And I says, "Yeah." I said, "Ernie flew over me a couple times," and told him when and where. And he said, "Well, wasn't Ernie, and the plane's missing." And I thought, wow, that's crazy. So I didn't think much of it. He just said, well, the ranch will contact you. And at that time they had, county sheriffs and local authorities involved. Well, so they contacted me, asked me what I saw, what the goings on were. And of course they knew I was out and gone, headed down to pick up a trailer. And so, not much was made of it at that point. And we were in Texas for a couple days. I didn't hear anything for a day or two until we were stopped in Amarillo on the way back. And I'd gone downstairs for a continental breakfast, and on the movies or on the TV screen, national television comes up the disappearance of this pilot in Nevada, and his name was Steve Fawcett. And this is like on the Today Show, and I'm like, wait a minute.
This ringing a bell. Yeah.
It kind of linked up with me, and I thought, well, shit, because I was like, what good am I gonna do, if a plane's missing? Didn't dawn on me what my role in this entire investigation process was at that point. So we got back to Nevada. I had a couple days worth on there, and then I was headed home to Pendleton for the Pendleton. And so the whole time I was in Nevada there, my manager, he came out to there, and he asked me, hey, the authorities got questions to ask. I said, I'm headed home. This is my vacation to go home for the roundup. And I never heard anything from anybody at that point, so I headed to Pendleton, went and did the roundup deal. Well, it was Tuesday, and I was in the letterbuck room. And I got my, typical letterbuck room, my snoot's full. Well, I get a phone call from the local sheriff at that time, and John Trumbo. And of course, I answered the phone. He goes, Rawley? I said, yeah. He goes, this is John Trumbo. And I said, John, I haven't done anything yet. And,
Yet. Yeah. Preemptive strike, as they would say.
He says, well, he says, I know. He says, but this doesn't have anything to do with anything here. He says, this has to do with the plane disappearing in Nevada. And I says, oh. And he says, what? He says, well, I need to talk to you. Where are you at? And I said, well, I'm in the Letter Buck room. He says, well, I'll come get you. And I said, well, I'll make it easy for you. I'll meet you at the beer garden that's outside of the Letter Buck room here, and I'll go order a beer until you get there.
I'd be like, can you wait till 6? Wait till this place closes.
Well, man, can I get a stamp or something? Yeah.
Well, he called me and he says, when he gets there, he says, where you at? And I said, I'm over here at the beer garden. He says, okay, well, I'm just at the gate. I'll be there in a second. He gets to the beer garden. He says, well, and at this point, it's like they had a manhunt out for me. I didn't know it. And literally had a big manhunt looking for me. So it had been probably 5 days since the disappearance originally started, roughly. And nothing had come up. No evidence, nothing. Nobody found anything. So people are getting frantic. Well, John comes down there and he gets me. He says, come on, we'll just go back over here to the security booth and I can ask you the questions and kind of get all the information we need. I said, well, that's fine. Well, we get back to the security booth and it's like everybody found out that I'd been found, and it had been across Roundup radios. I mean, everybody that they're the sheriff looking for Rawley Bigsby. Well, I get there and all these looky-loos are standing around there. What do you do? What do you know? They're like, what's the big deal? And John goes in the security booth. He's like, we can't do this here. Like, no, this isn't happening here. And he says, come on, we'll go down to the sheriff's office. So we go down to the sheriff's office and I go inside and sit down, he says, oh, we're going to take down a written statement. And I said, well, I'll tell you what happened, what I saw, where I was, roughly the time frame, and write it down and I'll sign it. I said, you're interrupting my vacation. I want to go back and hang out with my friends and do what I came here to do. So they take a written statement down and then they contact the FBI. Well, I didn't even know you could have a Zoom type of a meeting back then, but that's essentially what they did is they put me on a screen live I'm on there with FBI. I'm on there with fucking every agency known to mankind. And I didn't know. I had no too. Yeah. I had no idea. Were you wearing
like a cowboy hat and everything? And
oh yeah. I mean, I had no idea the scale of what was happening. Like it didn't dawn on me at that point in time.
Well, how long had you been in the Letter Buck room?
All day.
He was definitely speaking the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, there was
got like stickers all over your shirt.
Yeah. There was no
07, it would have been prime time. And like, it's no fucking mystery to find Rawley Bigsby in 07 during Roundup. Like,
it's no bullshit.
I would take no detective to figure that one out. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they get me on the video deal with all these authorities, and they're like, well, what time was this? And well, we get to the section where I'm talking about the phone conversations I had and what time I saw the plane. And they're like, well, can you contact your provider and find out if you can get your records? And so I call them right there and I'm like, they said, no, we send them out with the billing. Well, so they said, well, with your permission, do you mind if we try? I said, I don't care. And they said, oh, well, here they are. Yeah. And I said, you already had them? Why did you ask? Well, we have to ask to verify it. What does that mean? This is a fucking FBI. They can find and do whatever the fuck they want.
In 07 even, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, don't waste my time anymore. I mean, if you need to get something, get it. Like I don't know what. It kind of pissed me off that they did that, but whatever.
Here they are. Yeah.
And so then they said, well, and I told them where I was, what I saw, when I saw it, what there was to see. And they said, well, we may have to come get you because you're the most credible witness we have at this point. You're
words you never thought you'd
piece
hear.
of
Yeah.
I'm like, and so they said, they told the sheriff, they said, well, you need to retain him. He can't go anywhere until we call you back. And they said, well, he says, okay, well, he'll be sitting right here in the office with me. And so about an hour later, they called back and said, well, based on the information, there's nothing that you can do down here that you've been able to do from there. And I said, oh, it is what it is. And they said, you need to be within earshot of the sheriff at all times because we may be sending a jet to come up and get you. And I said, well, that's fine. You give me a little heads up. There's some things that I'm obligated to do as I'm involved with the roundup and blah, blah, blah. And I need to give people notification so that so they're not relying on me and I'm just all of a sudden not showing up. But anyhow, they didn't need me right then. And so I was able to finish out my fun at the roundup. And I went back to Nevada and I got back to Nevada. And the morning after I drove in late the next morning, my manager said, hey, they want to do they can't find anything. I mean, at this point, it had been 10 days probably. They really want you to go up with them in the aircraft and show them where the plane was and exactly what the blah, yada, yada. So they come up and pick me up in Bell 205, I think, a Huey.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And fly me back to the other end of the ranch and then unload me. And we go into the compound at the Hilton Ranch, and they've Baron Hilton and all these authorities. And they said, we want you to give us another statement. And I said, that's fine. I don't know if you're looking for something different. This is like the fourth time that I've gone over this with different authorities. I said, sharpen your fucking pencils. This is the last time I'm fucking telling you this shit. And I don't want to be bothered about this. I mean, I know about as much about where the airplane is as the last time I saw it. And you guys have looked there 100 times. So I gave them the whole rundown, the time frame, everything. All these questions came in. And Baron Hilton, he's a really nice man. He came over and visited with me. And the only thing I could think the whole time he's talking is, what's this gal standing behind him with a little dustpan and a whisk broom? It was his maid that followed him around to pick up the cherries off of his cigar when they fell on the floor. And I was just like, wow. Like that was distracting from the whole time talking to him. But very nice man, good people. And after that, they took me up in the helicopter again, and I flew him as near as I could to show him the direct flight path that he was taking both times I saw him, which turns out, I mean, I don't know the exact distance, but he was every bit of 50 miles south of where I last saw him. I mean, clear down at Mammoth Lakes. It was quite a ways south. I don't know the exact parameters, but where I last saw him. But anyhow, everything kind of stopped at that point. Well, I'd been putting together a deal to come back to Oregon to run some cattle on a guy's ranch, and that was shaping up. And so I left Nevada and came back. Well, that whole time I kept getting, and keep in mind, this was September. Well, they didn't actually find him till the following October, a year later.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm getting calls from A&E, National Geographic, all types of people calling me, wanting to do interviews and wanting to, they want to do a live rundown documentary on all this stuff. And well, we'd come out there, and I said, well, I don't have time. I've got a real job, and I'm not down in Nevada anymore. And I don't know we'd like you to come do this documentary and spend 2 weeks. And I'm like, does it pay anything? Well, no. No.
Too bad.
And I'd get phone calls from people like, hey, we just read a article in Esquire magazine, and the title says that Rawley Bigsby is more powerful than the internet. And what they were meaning is with all the new technology in Google Earth, that they still weren't able to find this missing person. And they had on, I remember this in the headquarters at the compound they'd sent up, they had a grid of an area 100 miles by 100 miles where they'd gridded it with aircraft flying over this. Like every wasn't even quarter mile there was they had aircraft crossing that, and that on a search grid. And then they'd actually found, I can't recall the exact numbers, but it was at least a half a dozen old aircraft wreckages that had been missing for years that weren't having anything to do with it. These were just wreckages that nobody knew, but they found.
Oh, wow.
And anyhow, a year and a month or so later, a hiker was walking along a trail and found a wallet with $1,000 with $100 bill or something and his ID in it, and that's when they obviously found the wreckage. And it was he tumbled that plane up into a high basin, as I understand it, in the Mammoth Lakes area, and it was scattered out over half a mile, so the wreckage was not
really hard to find.
But the one piece of evidence that they found that they might have had a conclusion was that there's a 5-point harness when you're flying, and they don't come undone unless you manually undo them. And the harness had been undone, and his remains were actually a fair distance away from the aircraft. So they think that maybe he survived and was trying to drag himself, but they also found parts of his remains scattered around from bears. So,
wait, so he tried to like just jump out of the plane?
That's hard to say. I don't know.
He might have wrote it in and tried to crawl out.
They couldn't, based on the evidence they found, they said there are 3 conclusions that were possibilities. 1, he had a health event, possibly. 2, a weather event, which wind shears and whatnot that high in the Sierras are common. And then, or a mechanical malfunction. I mean, literally the 3 main reasons why a plane wrecks could have happened. So there wasn't any conclusive evidence that I've ever heard of as to why. But through that process, I mean, it is the single largest, from a monetary standpoint, the single largest manhunt in the history of the United States. And I was actually their key witness through all of it, which is kind of fucking weird, but that's if you think about it that way. But yeah, that's kind of the story behind the Steve Fawcett disappearance. From you guys have gotten documentation of what a lot of people wanted to pay good money for back then. So.
That's the value that comes with dealing with the Far Reaches podcast right there.
Yeah.
It's I'd forgotten the quote about more powerful than the internet. That's amazing. That's awesome.
There were a lot of headhunters and a lot of wanting to exploit it. And, the only thing I could think about the whole time is this guy's poor wife was sitting in his hut with her husband missing. And
not knowing. That's the worst part.
I had opportunity. Yeah, I had opportunity to make money off this deal, but I didn't want to. And so, yeah. But that's the story.
Is this I don't know if you can see this. Is this the house you were living in?
That didn't look like it.
No.
Oh,
no.
Stone.
No, that's not.
I was just trying to get a sense of what this place looks like. His Flying M Ranch.
Yeah.
Big. Yeah.
I'll do some investigation. I can send some pictures to you. I don't have anything offhand right now. On my Facebook page, there might be a picture actually in some of my photos back. But,
I would think that'd be a hard job to get. Working on there, and you just decide you want to go do something else.
Yeah, I went to college with the manager's daughter, and we were good friends. And I was looking to go somewhere else and work, and she said that her dad was looking for some guys down there, and so
there you go.
I ended up.
Knowing somebody there helps quite a bit, but yeah, it's probably also a job that people aren't just lined up to go live in the middle of nowhere with no phone and just electricity and water, basically. So, and then cowboying all day. Like they always say, everybody wants to do cowboy shit till it's time to go do cowboy shit.
Yeah, I mean it was fun. It was an experience and an adventure a little bit. So, but that was one of the stories that came along with it. Unfortunately, it's Steve Fawcett's expense. But
it made my roundup entertaining that year. That's for sure.
I think I was too young
Yeah.
probably at the time to be in the Letterbuck room or something. No, I don't know.
07.
But
So,
like, I bet people were just like, "What the fuck is going on with Rawley? The FBI is looking for him." And
just
what
got
did he
back from
do?
Texas.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of stupid rumors and shit, but that's Pendleton. You know,
Yeah.
people talk. It was blasted over the radio that there was a need to find me. Nobody knew what the need was, and quite frankly, it didn't really matter to me. But
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "I'm not surprised."
oh, yeah, probably the water ran a little deeper than what most people probably thought.
Yeah,
so
absolutely does. Yeah, that's why you should have flown over Pendleton with that headline and just dumped him out of a plane. Yeah, just
no, it didn't really sink home with me until they said, "Well, we're gonna detain you," and well, there's a good chance. I mean, the FBI is gonna send a Learjet to Pendleton, Oregon, to come pick me up.
Yeah,
you know, and when I got back down there, the runway at the main ranch was a mile long. I mean, it was at any given point in time between Memorial and Labor Day at that ranch, there was a plethora of Learjets parked along there because all the famous people would come spend the weekend away from everything and hang out with the Hilton family. But that when I got there must have been probably 30 helicopters and 30 to 50 fixed wings parked along there that were in the part of the search party. I mean, there was millions and millions of dollars spent looking for Steve. And there's another really rich guy that was a lot like Steve.
Richard Branson.
Richard Branson, yes. He was actually there and was funding a lot of the search.
Oh wow.
And had a bunch of aircraft involved. And I mean, it was I could have cared less about all the hoopla of the who's who that came along with that job, but it was an interesting experience.
Did you ever see that Paris?
No. I don't think she was very welcome around there, to be honest with you, but I don't know. I can't say that for sure.
I was gonna say it could have been like that Yellowstone show with the daughters into the ranch hand.
Boy, that might have been where they found the character for that. I don't know.
I would. Anyways, yeah.
Well, I don't want to try and cut things short, but I need to attend to some business here. So.
Well, do your thing, Chicken Wing.
You want to tell us a movie?
Yeah, tell us real quick what your entertainment spotlight will be. Movie, poetry, book, play, whatever.
That I got to thinking about our current president going ahead with the dropping bombs over the Middle East and bombing stuff. So that reminded me of a movie, that 1986 classic of Iron Eagle.
Yes.
And, so it's kind of a lighthearted approach at something different to look at. Enjoyable movie to watch, I suppose. So.
I love it. Iron Eagle.
Top Gun.
What's that?
I said Iron Eagle before Top Gun. Who would have thought?
Well, they came out in the same year, and Top Gun obviously found more accolades and more fame and notoriety, but this one's flown a little under the radar. Maybe some folks haven't seen it before. So.
Nice move there. This aeronautical episode of Far Reaches podcast.
Doug Masters.
Awesome.
Man, he was cool as shit.
Dude, yeah, the Walkman on the freaking leg branch there. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, so no.
Sweet.
That's
well,
what I got for you.
Rawls, we'll get that word out. We'll let you get running. We got a couple more segments, then we'll be we'll go on ourselves our ways too. But thanks for telling that story for free, man. We appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I will be in touch with you here soon.
Yeah, I'll probably get an invoice. Yeah. So.
Right on.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, I'll catch up on the recording as to what happened after this later.
All right. Well, healthy calves to you, my good sir.
Yep. Talk to you soon.
Later, balls.
Yep.
Bye.
It's too bad that Rawley's going to miss our inaugural new segment that we've come up with as of late. And it's also, again, sponsored by good friends at B&K, and I'll do a quick read for them, and then I'll tell you what the new segment is. But it fits in really well with B&K, and I got to thank Joel for bringing this to light. And so we're shuffling up far reaches a little bit, but this new segment's called, What's Grinding Your Gears, and it's brought to you by B&K. And so, still with social distancing rules in effect, especially in the People's Republic of Oregon, one of your options, if you're looking for parts, just call in your order, and if they got it, they can go out and get it. You can pay over the phone, and it'll be ready there when you go to pick it up. Of course, if you want to go pull it yourself, you're more than welcome to do that at B&K. And again, use promo code REACHER for discounts on those pulled parts. And then also you still get that bump in the scrap rates as well. So, the bigger the sale, the bigger the discount. But we're starting this new segment called What's Grinding Your Gears. And it's sort of a way to reflect on some of the current events and what's going on, and really kind of what's pissing us off. We call it what's, you're blowing a head gasket or scrap that idea, but we're going to go with what's grinding your gears. And so Mr. Joel, since this came to light from some of your thoughts and input, would you like to kick off this inaugural segment of What's Grinding Your Gears, brought to you by B&K Auto Salvage?
Yeah. You know what brought it up to me is, I'm trying to find it real quick, and we can probably even just play it. I'll just play it for everybody. This California, so everyone's trying to get kids back into school.
Oh, I think I know who you're gonna put here. Yeah.
Yeah, and California released a piece of propaganda, is what I would call it. Best to describe it is that. God damn, let me find it. Sorry, I don't know. It just really bothered me because the tone of the video seemed very dystopian.
Yes. It's definitely aimed at kids, I would say, too.
Yeah. Here, I found it. So let me just play it.
Even though we don't want to give them any more press than they definitely deserve, but I think it needs to bear witness as well. Yeah.
Children. Has this conversation taken place in your home?
You can hear it, right?
I'm scared about going back to school. I don't want to get sick, and I don't want to get your dad sick.
Our scientists tell us there are 3 things we must do to stay safe. Wear masks, make sure we social distance, and wash our hands. And now, your school, with the help of Microsoft Corporation, has created another. Introducing Daily Pass, your exclusive ticket for safely going back to school. Each week, you can schedule your free on-campus COVID test. The results are displayed in your Daily Pass. And if you choose to take your test off campus, you can post the results in your Daily Pass. At the moment vaccinations are available, you'll simply be able to schedule yours through your Daily Pass. But the real magic is your daily health check. Just answer a few simple health questions every day, and like magic, your entrance ticket appears.
We've lost it now. We can't hear it anymore. That definitely gets the gist, though, for sure. It's cartoonish. Yeah, it's the girl I'm worried about getting sick and getting you and dad sick, and you can have this daily pass where we basically monitor your every freaking move, and you get your little daily passport, if you will, to go back to school, thanks to our friends at Microsoft. Is that the gist of it?
Yeah, the Microsoft Corporation is so weird. But there's part of this video where these kids are spaced out, and there's a cop pointing a temperature gun at their forehead.
Yeah.
Like, you can go to school now. I sent it to some of my more liberal leaning friends thinking we could all agree this is fucking crazy. And they like supported it. I couldn't believe it. To me, my point is that they're not, and personally, I don't really care. I don't have kids. I don't really care about kids in school and stuff, but nobody else seems to be worried about it. So I might as well, somebody needs to be worried about them. Imagine the damage that this is doing to them. Like when I was a little kid, I would watch one scary movie and I was afraid for years to walk into a dark bedroom. Like
or clowns or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, clowns. Like, imagine how much damage this is doing to little kids, thinking that they're probably thinking they're gonna die. Right? This is PTSD. It's PTSD written all over it.
Well,
And
yeah.
I think it's completely unnecessary. They don't.
1,000%.
All the science says is doesn't really do anything to little kids.
No.
Like, sure, I think it's like less dangerous than the flu. Is the point? It's
Yes.
certainly dangerous.
Nothing is
wanna
without any peril potential, but like relatively on the risk scale, there's a greater chance of falling down in the playground and hitting your head than having this impact you. This is what, look at the science, as everybody likes to point when it says what they want to hear, 1,000%, and tied directly to this, suicides and drug overdoses and everything amongst what I think like 8 to 13-year-olds is up over 100% across the board.
Oh yeah,
that's before they see this video and think about how they're going to kill mom and dad. That's just what's gone on in this past year.
Not to mention all like the I guess lower income students that where my understanding, talking to like my mother who worked at the schools for a long time, and there were a lot of low income students. Like, going to school is sort of an escape for them. They got a meal, and they can a lot of times get away from maybe perhaps an abusive home situation. This is just, it's out of hand. And I was so shocked to send this to people, and they're like, I'm surprised that people disagree with me on this.
Well, even if it wasn't about the corona, if you will, it just seems overly big brother to me on a completely different hand. No matter what the insert disease or qualification or whatever, but this weekly pass thing, it just seems really eerie and definitely, Orwellian, if you will, to the 9th degree. No matter what it's really about. That's the other part about it, because it's not going to stop. Guess about that.
3 years, I was going to say, this isn't done. Like, flu arises next year. Like, well, you know what worked with the flu? This is how it's going to be forever.
Because you can't prove,
easily malleable.
You can't prove that it didn't work. You can't prove the negative. That's their whole point, is see all these things we did. That's what helped. That's what cured. You can't prove any otherwise. That's the point. That's the problem. That's the concern. Richard, you're off mute. What do you got?
I got to bail. My headache's coming back. Sorry.
I don't blame you. Well, we'll carry on and do the best we can.
All right. I apologize.
All right. Peace out, homeschool.
I think for me, see you, Richard.
See you.
I think for me, it's like the frustration of defeat. Like, we've already kind of lost this battle.
I don't think we have fully,
for a while.
In certain places, for sure. When you first started talking about this, I thought you were going to talk about the. I think she's the head of the California Teachers Association.
Oh, yeah.
And talking about how it's rich white people wanting to send kids back to school, and nobody else is ready to go back, and it's dangerous. And then one of the guys on the board is sending his kid to private school, but B, they interviewed a lot of people that aren't considered rich and white, and they're all like, our kids need to be in school. This is their pathway out of poverty, out of these situations, like you hinted on. Like, this is where they get social and they get learned, and they, all these things that we point to schools and like, this is their main job. And so
and it's all just being ignored under the guise of public safety. And what they don't understand is that I was like, that video is so full of opinion. And my friends are like, what's wrong with it? They're just saying scientific facts. Like, that's full of opinion. Like, not everybody, probably less than half of parents feel that way. Nobody's having those conversations with their kids. And if they are, you're weird. Like, I love you so much, Daddy. Thank you for keeping me safe. Like, shut up. Kids aren't saying
it's total BS. It's they're planting that seed. Like, don't you feel this way? Like, it's cartoony. It's like, oh, hey, honey, it's completely pointed and angled for that effect, for no doubt. If somebody if a kid doesn't have that opinion already and they see that, what do they think they're supposed to think? Like, I need to think this way too. This is dangerous. Like, I need to do that. That's where you're steering them. And so, highly concerned. So, my only hope is states that aren't going down that sort of trail. But yeah, I was watching somebody. It's the doctor from Johns Hopkins who's like, this doesn't make any sense. He was talking about some of the stats about that's where I got my numbers from suicides and overdoses and self-inflicted wounds and all these things that are up just to over 100% on all these kids. And he's like, in 3, 4, 5 years, we're going to be able to look back on these numbers and just be absolutely horrified of the impact that this stay at home has had on kids. We see it already now. And even though most people don't want to, or there's not enough numbers in, but given the impact of time passing and looking back, we're going to be horrified of what we've done. And I couldn't agree more. It's just absolutely atrocious.
Part of my job is, in compliance is risk tolerance. So we talk about risk tolerance a lot. Like,
great point. Yeah.
How much personal, one of our instructor-led training sessions is, we have a slide. It's like, how much risk are you willing to assume personally? Are you more the type that'll be willing to take a cross-country road trip, or are you going to take a balloon ride, or do you want to go skydiving, or some fourth thing? And everybody has their own personal risk tolerance, but when it's coming to this COVID, it's like, that's out the window. There's zero risk tolerance anymore among these people. It's like they forgot the concept. It's like, well, if one person's going to die, then we can't allow that.
And I still maintain, if we're really concerned about health and well-being, we ought to be looking at diet and exercise way before we look at any
There's
sort of disease.
no room for nuance at all.
Yeah.
It's you're going to get a cough and die of COVID. So it's so frustrating. And I think part of the frustration isn't just this action, it's the long-term consequences of it. Nobody's talking about, where you're driving people out of California and New York and major cities, and they're moving to places like Idaho, Texas, Florida,
Tennessee, Alabama,
the Dakotas, Tennessee.
Yeah.
They're moving to red states that have good economies and good quality of life. And the problem is they really are going to take their personal politics with them. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Yes.
It
is a huge concern in places like, especially, let's take Texas, for example. That's a huge concern that you're going to come here. You're leaving these places you drove into the ground with your certain policies, and you're headed here. And that's the first thing you're most likely going to start doing. We've seen it in Idaho already, around Boise.
Yeah. I don't even know if it's not a concern anymore.
It's a reality.
This is gonna happen.
It's a reality. And how you combat that is extremely difficult, because it's, again, most of our stuff's done through the voting process. And sad to say, a lot of people on the conservative side don't get involved in the local level very often. They just don't.
I didn't bring it up, but I really wanted to. And no offense to my girlfriend's parents, they're great people. I love them. But they spent their life in Chicago, which Chicago's a fucking shithole, and they're Democrats.
Great city to visit, but I would never live there.
Then they retire and they go to Florida, and a significant reason why they did that is because of the tax situation, and they have every intention of continuing to vote that way.
Yeah.
I'm like, these things are connected. Like, this place was great because of the policy that allowed it to flourish.
Yes.
And you're going to ruin this place too.
It's a great point. And it's something people are going to have to learn how to address, because
and there's no place left to go.
Eventually you're going to run out of spots. But I think it boils down to getting involved. I think it's been my epiphany in the past few weeks, getting involved on the local level. That's a huge first step. And not just letting somebody else take care of that, or I don't have time for it, because guess who does? People who have retired and sold off and moved to your state now. That's what they do. That's part of the job. So it's changing how you interact and what you do. That's a big part of it. It's not everything, but it certainly is a big first step. So it's going to be comfort zone for a lot of people, and not doing other stuff and taking time out. But that's part of the deal. And I think the more the states are involved too, the less these shifts at the federal level really tip your apple cart upside down. So the more, it's all about states' rights and states' power, in my opinion, and getting involved. If it's a school board, I don't care if you got kids or not, you should be involved with that. Town council, planning commission, something. You have to be involved.
Yeah, everyone, like, I would love to get involved in politics, but problem is, like, I could never be in any meaningful position because, like, somebody could just pull up this podcast and be like, you said this stupid thing. Like, yeah,
that was, I think that we have to battle that. Of course we did. I'm a human. I'm going to say stupid shit. We've all said stupid shit we don't mean or do. What? I think that's the whole point. You just get out in front of it like, hey, my name's Joel. I've done
I say a lot
shit.
of stupid stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whatever's on the top of my mind, I'll say it out loud.
You're always going to know what I'm thinking, guys, because I'm going to say it out loud. I think you say that. And I've always said that because I've always talked about I wanted to be senator or mayor or something. And it's like, I always joked with my friends, like, you're going to be rich either way. Either I'm going to put you on the payroll or somebody's going to pay you to talk about all the stupid shit we've done together. But guess what? That's because I'm a human and I've been groomed since I was 5 to be in office. So I think if you embrace it, say it out loud.
Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely. That guy's made in a petri dish to be a politician. And you're like the 10th of my friends to say that exact statement. That's what that guy was made to do. Like, checking the boxes, man. And hey, more power to him. He figured it out. He went and did it. Congratulations. But, I don't respect you any more than I would anybody else. So I wouldn't let that hold you back, Joel. That's all I'm saying. Because nobody's perfect. I think you get out in front of it. You say, you're damn right I said that. Here's what I thought about, I think we have to be overly the top on this thing because, yeah, this is going to lead to what's grinding my gears, and it's a couple things, but I'll definitely put it more in the cancel side of everything, which I think is the most ridiculous shit that's ever come across this face of the earth. And it's a huge pile of stuff. It's the Dr. Seuss, it's the Muppets, it's taking down Abe Lincoln's name off the high school. It's all that. Like, I don't agree with your politics, so I'm going to shut you down. I think that's the scariest thing we've dealt with in a long time. That and you're painted as, if I just saw a thing today, if you're an anti-vaxxer, you're a domestic terrorist. Hey, it's not anti-vaxxer. I'm just not pro-vax. Like, it's like saying somebody who's a vegetarian is a domestic terrorist. Like, no, it's an opinion. Like, I don't believe in that right yet. I don't see enough data to support it. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not pro-vaxxer. I'm like, I'm pro-science. Like, so you label me a domestic terrorist because I don't want to take your vaccine? I think that's the most dangerous, reckless thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Not to mention the whole cancel on everything else, but the fact that if you say something out loud that somebody else doesn't agree with, that they can literally take your livelihood away or shut you down, is completely against everything that's ever been about America, ever. It doesn't matter if it's good or quote unquote bad, because that's our choice to say it. That's what we do. We debate about it. We talk about it. We say, that guy's dumb as shit. I'm not going to listen to him. And you go on your way. That's what it's all about. That's the point of a democratic republic. You debate, you back and forth, you post points. You say, well, yeah, I can't agree with that, or yes, I do. And I think now everybody thinks their opinion is the ultimate epitome of perfection, and it's not. It's just your opinion. It doesn't mean shit. Hate to break it to you, but that's what it is.
You got to have a principle, and so I've been debating with these same liberal buddies a lot, which is like, with the mask stuff, like they'll say, well, it's not really such a big infringement. Show me where this is violating your constitutional rights, or where the government is enforcing it. Like, dude, I don't know. If the government is making you wear a mask to go inside somewhere, that's
not my freedom of choice. What happened to my body, my choice?
Yeah, especially like vaccines, for example. So New York has a new thing. Cuomo is allowing people to attend like basketball games again. But there's an app where you get a vaccine and then the negative test results on the app, and then you can show it to get into the basketball game.
Yeah, negative.
And then maybe airlines could easily do that. Like, you can't come on an airline unless you show us that you have the vaccine. Like, I don't want the vaccine. Why is that so bad? Like,
yeah, if you have it,
you're
what are you
not
worried
allowed
about?
to dissent anymore. And then somebody will say, like, yeah, you don't have to get the vaccine, you just can't fly. Like, dude, come on.
Yeah, it's none of your business. That's a private medical issue in my mind. It's none of your HIPAA has gone completely out the window. I mean, like, completely shot and drugged behind the rig. All the HIPAA laws about people's personal medical issues. Like, it's none of your damn concern. What vaccines I have, what medication I'm on, none of that.
So going to the basketball game is a privilege. So you have nothing to complain about. And I'm like, it's a very slippery slope.
Where does that stop? Isn't going to the store a privilege too? Like, I mean, where are you in that one? I mean, that again, that's last year when we had the 2 weeks to shut the curve. When we made that initial differentiation between essential businesses and non, my top of my head exploded, because that's the biggest pile of bullshit ever. Every business is essential. It's the same thing about, this is a privilege. It's my right as an American to go where I see fit. Sorry, as I see fit.
Yeah, they'll claim, well, we have a health emergency here. And I was just thinking earlier today, and whatever, I'll say it. But I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to be offensive here, because I am definitely
I don't think we're trying to be offensive. Yeah,
I'm pro gay rights.
Sure.
And one of my best friends is gay, so, but he's also very, very liberal.
Sure.
So we debate about stuff a lot,
which is good. That's awesome. That's healthy.
And we can reason that, like, so the HIV crisis affects homosexual men more so than the rest of the population, just because of the science behind how it's transmitted.
I think that's a fair statement. Yeah.
I mean, can you and to a certain extent, society did, and this is, I think I explained before, a big reason why I was a Democrat before was because of, during like the Bush years, it was very Christian oriented, and that made me sick. Like their anti-gay rights stance.
Sure.
I couldn't tolerate that. I don't like the government telling you what you can and cannot do.
Precisely. Yeah.
But Bush's era, they were very much discriminatory towards gay rights. But imagine if at that time they were like, well, the HIV crisis is manifesting itself within the gay community. This is a public health risk. You guys can no longer congregate together in areas where we know that it's high risk for transmission. I would be like, that is a violation of my rights as a human being.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we never, to a certain extent, I think they did.
To some degree, but if you take it one step further,
in hindsight, it's a mistake.
Right. That's what you're saying. You're saying we need to learn from the history. Is that correct? We can't get rid of it. We have to learn from it, which is precisely the point. Take it one step further. If there was a vaccine for AIDS, would they have made everyone take it? Would they be saying that out loud? You don't have your AIDS vaccine, you can't get on this plane.
Oh God, man, that'd be awesome.
It's the same. Obviously would be, yeah, but it's the same level in my mind. Like, this is a public health risk. We're going to make you do it anyways because it's for everybody's health.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm sorry, your constitutional rights aren't tied up in having meaningful human relationships. That's not government. Tell me where.
Yeah.
That violates. Like, it does. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know exactly how. I can tell you that if you infringe on my rights to do something, I can tell you that it's probably in some shape or form violating my rights.
Freedom of assembly. There we go.
And we wouldn't tolerate it. But I don't. And of course, I understand that wearing a mask is a much smaller ask than asking people not to form relationships. I get that. But I'm just saying, like, it's a principle of the matter where it's the government interfering in your life in any way. It's not okay.
Absolutely. It's about choice. It's always about choice. I think a good example this past week, Texas was one of the states that said, look, no more mask mandate. No more, and everybody's losing their mind. It's like, look, Scooter, nobody's saying you can't wear a mask. They're just saying you don't have to. It's about choice. And I think that's the best thing about all of it is if you really, and I laughed and I was talking to some friends. I'm like, what's freaking people out is now they have to think about if they're going to wear it or not, just not be the sheep and just wear it because somebody else told them to. But you have the choice. If you still want to wear your mask in Texas, power to the people. If you want to wear 10 masks, I don't care. You should not care if I wear one or none or 50 either. That's my choice. I've done the math. I don't see the risk. I'm not going to wear the mask. Enjoy your day.
But if you want to go into a business and the business has like a mandate you have to wear it, I disagree with that.
100%.
I don't think this business should be allowed to require me to wear a mask.
Well, if they're going to go down that route, then they can certainly refuse to make a cake for whoever they want to as well. I think when we start making these choices about who can do what and when, it's got to be applied equally all across the board. And what I'm referring to is a few years ago, I don't agree with the guy's decision, but he didn't want to make a cake for a gay couple getting married. And they said he had to. And I'm like, it's his choice as a business. It could be anything. Like, I don't want to make a cake with a fisherman on top or whatever. It's the same thing. Now, you can't make him do that. And you can't say he can have you wear masks or not. Like, if you're going to get involved in it, it's got to be treated the same all the way around. And I don't think anybody really wants that, nor should they. So,
it should be his choice. Hobby Lobby has a rule that says you have to put on this robe to come in our store. I'd be upset. Or Walmart. It's like, you have to, I think Walmart people are pretty crazy Christian, but if they're like, you need to take communion before you walk in here, do like,
well, guess what? I'm not shopping there. I think that's the other choice we have. Like,
well,
if you're going to allow
that is a choice, but if you're in my town and it's open to the public, no, I don't have to do this nonsense to come in here. Like, I think in some shape or form that is violating.
It is.
My right.
It's two-sided though. And my point being is, if you're going to allow businesses to put that implication on somebody before they can come in their store, then you've opened the floodgates to people refusing business for almost anything else also.
Your trucks to supply your store are driving on publicly funded roads.
Absolutely.
If you want to drive back to that, like, you are using resources that I contribute to. I have a right
to get to the front door. But again, I'm saying, sure, if you want to make it so they can say, hey, you're not wearing a mask, you can't come in my store, then that opens the floodgates on any business owner refusing business for any reason. And I don't think anybody wants to go down that trail. But my point being, you can't have it one way and not the other. That's my point is,
yes. Okay.
If you're going to refuse that, then you have to let that wide open. It's not just this quote unquote special case, because that's what's fucked us over so far anyways, is this special case, everybody giving up their rights. And guess what, kids? They don't want to give them back. That's the whole point. I guess
it comes down to like, well, then you need to have a shirt and pants. And I'm like, yeah, good point. No, you don't need to have a shirt and pants. I don't give a shit.
Rock on in, man. I totally agree. So yeah, it's about being honest with really what you're going after, and applying that equally across. And I think it really ultimately it always should and always has boils down to personal choice and responsibility. Again, I don't look to the government to be my healthcare or tell me what's healthy and what's not, what's true and what's not. That's not their freaking job. And why this ever got involved with them. Like, why is the government buying doses of corona vaccine at all? It's not their job at all. Not remotely. They don't buy anything else. Like, I go to the doctor and I work it out. And if I need to get high blood pressure medicine or flu shot, whatever, it doesn't come from the government. Why should it? That's an independent deal. Again, that's why this went way off the rails. Their involvement is completely out of bounds. And the way they're handling it and the way people are responding, they got them scared, and they never stopped listening, and they've stopped thinking. They've not have critical thinking about this. And it's been a terrible year because of that, which was supposed to be, remember that 2 weeks to flatten the curve. How have we gone from that to a year, almost a year later to the day? And I dare say that some places are finally saying go pound sand, but everybody was applauding Texas, and I'm like, should have never happened in the first place. 2 weeks afterwards, when we started looking at the numbers and the impacts, and being like, look, this is not remotely what we thought it was. It's really high impact on people over this age or people with this conditions, but everybody else, go back to green flag racing. I mean, seriously, that should have what happened.
We need to take Texas as an example and like, okay, yeah, show me. They're doing an experiment. Texas is a very populated state. They're doing an experiment, no restrictions whatsoever. All right, let's talk about this in 2 weeks. Did this cause a significant spike in coronavirus? And if it didn't, like,
well, not only that,
go fuck it. I would guess it's not going to be.
I don't think so. They were predicting the end of the world at the Super Bowl. Super spreader event. Well, did that at Thanksgiving and Christmas. Thanksgiving, Sturgis.
And to a certain extent, Thanksgiving did coincide with a spike, but that was seasonal.
Precisely. And again,
potentially seasonal.
Getting the Rona, it's not a death sentence either. I need to remind and reinforce that fact that for a lot of people, it's like getting the flu. Some people it hammers. There's no way around that. But just because somebody tests positive for it doesn't mean they're in the death column also.
Well, don't say it's like getting the flu, because like I got it.
It's worse.
Not even close to the flu.
I mean, but I've had some really bad flu where I've been out for a week. But what I'm saying is
it was a hangover.
Yeah.
It wasn't even
you didn't even have a flu symptom, So again, my point being, like, just because you get it doesn't mean you're going to die anyways. Like, so just having a positive test is not the end of the world by any stretch.
Yeah. Well, you'll be fine.
Yeah. So that's why I laughed even harder about all the people come out the other day about how stupid Texas is. And, oh my God, I'd be like, hey, more power to you. Because guess what? In 2 weeks, you're all going to die. Probably not, So keep saying that for a year now. If I don't wear my mask, I'm going to keel over. Hi.
And also, trying to get, I've been getting in some debates with people about masks again, where it's like, literally show me. I keep reading that, evidence shows that masks are the most effective thing we have at preventing. Like, is it like,
how do you prove the negative in that, for one?
I've literally never seen any evidence. I looked it up, tried to find it specifically. I found one study that's always referenced, and they're using a wet, damp wash rag. And sort of instinctually, I'm like, okay, well, a damp wash rag seems like that probably would work, because, maybe the virus binds to like the water molecules or something, but we're not wearing damp wash rags on your face.
We're not, no.
And if it worked, they wouldn't be like, you know what, maybe we should try 2 masks.
There's that. And the first advice we got from all the experts wouldn't have been, don't wear a mask at all. Don't worry about it. That's the first advice we got. We've got natural built-in defenses also in our body that we need to keep strong. I think the worst thing is covering all up and staying home and hunkered in your Lysol bomb. Ultimately, like we've spoken many times as well, if you're really worried about things getting in your body, you should probably wear safety goggles, because your eyes are exposed and out and like little sponges all the time.
Yeah, people with glasses have less exposure. It makes sense. I mean,
even that, but
somebody sprays virus at your face.
It still comes around the side. Like, that's the other thing. Yeah. It's ridiculous. If you're wearing your welding mask, like, it still comes around. It's air, for God's sakes. It's everywhere around your head, So again, I'm not saying that people don't get sick from this. I'm not saying people haven't died. I'm just saying that if I don't want to wear a mask and you do, then more power to you. Because guess what? If your mask works for you, it works for you. What I do should have zero impact on you and your health. Okay. That's
complicated because wearing a mask is supposed to protect other people from you.
I don't see how. But if they're wearing a mask, they're protected from everything, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that why they're wearing it? I mean, they're spinning it that it's protecting other people, but that doesn't make any sense because you're wearing it to protect yourself, basically. So if I don't want to be protected, then I'm not going to wear it. So carry on. Yeah. I'm sure we've got a couple people. You're what?
Trying to wean myself off of, trying to get more comfortable because I'm still not comfortable walking around out in public without a mask.
Yeah.
And not for my safety. It's just because of
it's the social pressure.
Social pressure. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Which where I happen to live, like I see some people with a mask walking or driving their car, but literally 99% of the people I see don't. I went to lunch at a cafe outside yesterday. I think the waitress wore a mask. Nobody else was. A, we're sitting outside, but B, when I walk through the restaurant to go to the bathroom, nobody inside is wearing a mask. You know, I'm in Florida. But that little town's been pretty much that way for quite a few months now. Same thing. So I used to go shopping at the store there all the time. Nobody wore a mask. Some people did. The cashiers did. I never did shopping. So anyways, I won't beat that to death. My point being, it's all about choice. It should be. Got the information, we make decisions, you know, and you move forward. That's the whole point. And I can't stress that enough. When people start taking that away or formulating what I should hear and what my answer should be, that really goes against our life, because it's me. It's up to me to make my choices based on the information I get, not what you filter and send to me. It pisses me off every time there's anything about any kind of medicine or whatever on Instagram. There's the CDC link at the bottom of the post. Have you noticed that? Whenever they talk about anything to do with vaccinations or anything like that remotely, they're automatically putting a CDC link at the bottom of that post.
Right.
Even though it's not half the time remotely related to anything to do with that. But that's their push. And again, like, wait a minute. Why is this such a concern to you? Why are you talking about this all the time? So anyways, that's pretty good first edition, I think, of what's grinding your gears. We'll certainly open that up to comments too from the listeners. If you got topics you want us to tackle or what's grinding your gears, you can definitely send that in on our Facebook page or we also have an email. If you want to go that reach, it's farreachespodcast@gmail.com, but certainly the messenger on our Facebook page or any of our pages works well for that. So we always like to hear from the reachers. We'll, which speaking of, we'll kick now into our reacher mail. We've got a couple good comments this week. One comes from Carrie. Go ahead.
Does this pause? I have to pee pretty bad.
Not
or
easily.
Do you just carry on?
We're almost done. Actually, if you can, I know your hair's getting wet, but we're almost there. Yeah. So.
All right, go on.
But couple quick reader mails. Carrie in Oregon. Hey, really enjoyed the discussion about carbon credits and the carbon market. Keep talking about that subject and have Richard get a hold of me too. She works for a large farm in Eastern Oregon also, so it'd be interesting to see. We might have to get her rounded up for Far Reach's extra.
Yeah, I want to get involved in that too. I think that's probably a pretty good business.
No doubt about it. Absolutely. I think it's definitely, I'll use the pun, it's a growth business. This one from one of our faithful listeners, Jake in Oregon. Jesus, how the hell did just Mr. Joel guess what Hanyanker was? I thought that was pretty funny. He was quite pissed off that you guessed his word. So yeah, I thought it was great. Again, we've had past two words we've had have come from listeners. So again, if you got a great word that you like to use around the campfire or somewhere else, feel free to get that in for us. We'll definitely use it. If you got topics you think we should dive into, we'll be most happy to do that. Again, you can now find us on iHeartRadio, YouTube, pretty much any podcast platform. So that we'd ask that you'd go there, like, share, tell your friends about us. But we're going to wrap this episode up here. Tell us what you think about the new segment. if you got other suggestions, we'll certainly listen to those as well. But Joel, anything to add there before we wrap this edition of Far Reaches up and get it out there for the world to enjoy?
No, let's hope the economy doesn't completely fall apart this week, tomorrow.
That's a good high note, a good positive note I can get behind. So till then, gang, keep your pants and your powder dry. Thanks again for listening and watching, and whatever you do. And as always, get your thoughts and suggestions to us here at Far Reaches, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.